Welcome to another edition of Hollywood Hoops, Laid Back Reaction. I'm Josh Martin of Lonzo Wire. He's Eric Pincus of Basketball Insiders and Bleacher Report. And today's episode of Hollywood Hoops Laid Back Reaction is brought to you, as always, by High Five. High Five makes meetings awesome with insanely simple video conferencing designed for your meeting rooms. It's the easiest to use solution thanks to their all-in-one hardware and intuitive cloud software. Plus, it's a high-quality experience with industry-leading audio powered by Dolby Voice. It's so easy to use that there's no PIN codes or app downloads. Just click a link in your browser and you're in the meeting. Even the least techie person at your company can figure it out.
With customers in over 100 countries, High Five is already trusted by the likes of Warby Parker, Harry's, Betterment, and the Girl Scouts of Northern California. To learn more, to start your 30-day free trial of insanely simple video conferencing, visit highfive.com. That's HIGHFIVE.com. And Josh, we're using the High Five technology to do our conversation today, to put this out. We're going to talk a little bit about the two Los Angeles teams and what they're doing, because suddenly the Clippers are on a charge. Lakers, they're facing some problems once again.
Yeah, we'll start with the Clippers and kind of start on the high note at least. You know, that team, led by Blake Griffin, a healthy Blake Griffin now, and Lou Williams, and now Milos Teodosic, has won 6 in a row. Even without DeAndre Jordan, they keep it rolling. You know, they beat the Rockets the other night, on Monday night, Martin Luther King Day, by double digits. And that was obviously a very testy game, I'm sure, as everyone knows, and anyone who's listening to the podcast is well aware of all the back tunnel antics that went on with Trevor Ariza, Gerald Green supposedly leading the effort there. They have been levied with suspensions. Chris Paul, James Harden, who were involved in a certain degree, were not suspended because they were supposedly playing peacemaker. No suspensions for any Clippers, none for Austin Rivers, who's injured, or for Blake Griffin, who bumped Mike D'Antoni, but Mike D'Antoni was way off the bench. And you wonder if this is sort of a galvanizing moment for the Clippers now. They come out on Wednesday night, beat the Nuggets 109-104, and a game that was actually pretty huge when you think about the playoff implications for the Clippers. They're now in 7th place in the West, and essentially in a 3-way tie for 6th place. And the Nuggets had seemingly been hanging around that area of the playoff picture all season. Now they're in 9th place, a half game back of those 3 teams that include the Clippers that are in those last 3 spots. So the Clippers are really rolling. And Eric, I think it's kind of surprising and amazing considering how low this team was earlier in the season, losing 9 in a row, even with Blake Griffin, that they're now back in the playoff hunt. You know, after all the struggles and all the questions about should they tank and should Doc still be the coach there.
Well, I mean, you can argue that they should still tank. You should argue that they should trade DeAndre, that they should get value for Lou Williams. But this is a team that would like to fill the seats. They'd like to compete. They'd like to stay involved and be a relevant force in the NBA. And once you start rebuilding, that's tricky. And if you just have Blake Griffin and start to go through the rebuild, that might take 2, 3, 4 years, at which point Blake's basically wrapping up on his contract. So, but right now where they are, they're in that mix with 4 teams competing for 3 spots. So you've got, like we said, the Pelicans, the Nuggets, the Blazers, and the Clippers. The Jazz are a little bit behind, and maybe they get healthy, they get Gobert back, and maybe can join the fray. And those 4 teams are just a little bit behind the Minnesota Timberwolves. Feel like San Antonio, Minnesota, Houston, Golden State, they hold those positions, but it's actually the Oklahoma City Thunder who are only a hair above that. They're only a game and a half above that group of teams. So even the Thunder are vulnerable. I'm not sure how high the Clippers can get. 4, 8 is probably, obviously that's their bottom of where they'd like to be, but they could still stumble. But this is a team that is really resilient, playing a lot of young guys. CJ Williams, who's hurt right now, and they're still surviving. Juwan Evans getting big minutes. Ty Wallace is getting a great run. I think they're 6-1 maybe when since he's joined the team. I could be off by a number, but last I checked they were 5-1 and they just beat the Nuggets. So I'm going to say 6. Really impressive job of coaching by Doc Rivers. So yeah, they're a fun story to watch. It's easy to get behind a bunch of young guys playing their hearts out, and that's what they're doing. Whether you like Blake Griffin or not, whether you liked Chris Paul back in the day or not, this is a fun Clippers team to watch. And the last thing is, I mean, I didn't think the Clippers did anything to be suspended. I mean, Austin Rivers is a trash talker. You don't get suspended for trash talking. If you want to argue that Blake bumped D'Antoni, like you mentioned, D'Antoni was actually on the floor before the timeout was called So, yeah, you could argue he should have got suspended, but then they would have also had to fine D'Antoni because he had done something illegal that set up that. I mean, not that it's a big deal, but that's the decision made. The fines levied by Kiki Vandeweghe of the NBA, and apparently Chris Paul was not the instigator. Some of the reports suggested he was more involved. They're saying that he was the one who was trying to hold people back. I don't know how true it is, but that's what the story, and they're sticking to it.
All right, we'll accept that, but it's at least for now. But it's going to be tough for the Clippers to catch the Thunder if OKC keeps playing the Lakers when Lonzo Ball is out. You know, we saw that Wednesday night. Lakers going to Oklahoma City. Lonzo Ball is out. Brandon Ingram comes back from a sprained ankle, but he tweaks it. KCP has a sore Achilles heel. You see Kyle Kuzma have some sort of hand injury, and the Lakers go down again, 114-90. And in this case, you can say it's the injuries, and obviously the injuries have a huge impact. But the biggest thing, and certainly the Lakers harped on this after the game, was they got killed on the boards, 54-30 overall, 21-6 on the offensive glass alone. And Luke Walton was sort of remarking after the game, I guess, that he was asked what sort of impact it has on their rebounding that Lonzo isn't there, and like what's the toughness factor that's lost. And Luke basically said that they shouldn't be relying on their 20-year-old point guard to bring the toughness. And I think that's an excellent point. Obviously, if you're talking about a starting lineup that totaled 8 rebounds, Julius Randle, your power forward, a guy who piles up double doubles, has 1 rebound. Brook Lopez has 2. Eric, if you're the Lakers, you know, with or without Lonzo, what can you do to sort of bring that toughness back and to be a more effective team on the glass?
Well, I really think at some point it was psychological, where the Lakers came into a situation, didn't seem like they believed that they were going to win this game. Once guys started to go down, it seemed like the energy lagged. And I mean, to a degree, it's human nature, but also it's an opportunity when other players are out for those who don't get a chance to play much to go out there and assert themselves. Clearly, the Lakers did not. But I think the matchup in particular is a bad one against the Thunder. We've seen them play the OKC twice and get beat pretty handily by them twice. So sometimes it's just a bad fit. What's interesting about Lonzo, and you mentioned those ridiculous offensive rebounding numbers, the discrepancy, Lonzo is such a threat in transition that teams tend, and not every team, but most teams tend to either send all 5 guys back on D very quickly, or at least 4 guys back and have one guy try to go and get the defensive rebound. They're not as worried about, they're worried about the Lakers getting in transition, basically. So they're not going to crash their offensive glass on the same level as they would against another team. Last night, they could crash all they want because there was no Lonzo. Lonzo's got a real knack for getting that ball, and then once he's got it, it's already halfway down the court. He's throwing outlet passes. He's finding the open man, and the Lakers are the fastest team in the league, or at least they have been as far as in transition. Without Lonzo, you lose that. And so you don't have to play it the same way. You can have 2-3 guys crash those offensive boards. So maybe that's the difference. But yeah, I think it's clear, if you were a Lonzo Ball detractor and didn't believe that he was an impact player, he's had a huge impact on the Lakers. They are winless without him. They are adequate and not a great team yet with him, because this is not a great team based on maturity and construction at this point. But they are far better when he's on the floor than when he's not.
Yeah, I think that's pretty evident now at this point. 0-8 without Lonzo, giving up about 124 points a game when he doesn't play. And they've got an interesting 3-game homestand coming up against the Eastern Conference. The Indiana Pacers Friday, the New York Knicks for a Sunday matinee, and then the Boston Celtics come in on Tuesday, and then the Lakers hit the road for 5 games. And guess where they end that 5-game trip? Back in Oklahoma City. So I'm sure they're hoping that they'll be a little bit healthier, that they'll finally have Lonzo on the floor sooner than that, certainly, but at least in time to play that game in OKC. But that's a little ways off. For now, we're going to wrap it up here on this edition of Hollywood Hoops Laid Back Reaction. I'm Josh Martin of Lonzo Wire. He's Eric Pincus of Basketball Insiders and Bleacher Report. And we're brought to you, as always, by High Five. Be sure to check out their technology. Check out our podcast, Hollywood Hoops, wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out on Nothing But Net on Dash Radio every Wednesday, 4 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. and we'll be back with you again soon with another edition in video or audio of Hollywood Hoops.
He's on his race, going to Hollywood, he's busting into Hollywood.